the gains the Philippines has made as one of the world's top outsourcing destinations, the second International Outsourcing Summit will be held right here in Manila. Now, during the summit, at least 300 delegates are expected to join discussions with world-renowned industry leaders and experts. Now, to tell us more about this event is Mr. Oscar Sanez. He's the president of the Business Processing Association of the Philippines. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be here.
What's going to be different with this second holding of the summit?
Oh, we're so proud to host this second International Outsourcing Summit here in Manila because this is a continuation of what was an earlier success we had last year. We're in the middle of the crisis at that time.
That's right.
And there was a good forum for the international practitioners in offshoring and outsourcing to engage in an in-depth discussion of what would be the strategies for surviving and actually prevailing the crisis. And now, a year after that, a lot of these practitioners are back, and others who are now engaged in offshoring in a bigger way. So we are hosting global CEOs, consultants, practitioners, even participants from the academe and the other industry vendors to again discuss what are the issues now after over a year from the crisis.
Right, interesting.
And what will be the success formula?
Interesting point of discussion. If last year you were talking about what you're going to do this year, what are the things being implemented post-crisis?
That's right. And in the forum, we'll be sharing some of those best practices, what some of those successful companies have done, and what will be the key learnings. And I think for the participants in the forum, we're expecting over 300 delegates from 15 countries worldwide. We'll be able to distill a lot of these issues from different perspectives, from CEO perspective, from chairman perspective, from the academe, from the industry vendors, from the locators themselves, from the operations heads, and figure out again how this impact my own business, and how will I then take this Philippine business into a higher level so that we can be an even more significant player in this global industry.
I'm going to ask you about some samples of what strategies were brought up last year and what are being implemented this year. Did the industry really take a hit with the global economic crisis?
Well, at some point in time, there was a bit of a stall in the foreign direct investments, and that was because there was a whole lot of restructure going on.
That's right.
For many of the major banking and financial institutions, there were change of owners, change of managers, change of CEOs, and it was understandable that some of the decisions had to stall for some time. There were like 2 quarters that were like that. But quickly, middle of last year, there was a ramping up of major investments. And up until the end of 2009, which was the whole year of the crisis, we were seeing a rapid growth. And that's why we ended the year still at 19% growth. We were expecting something like 26 to 28%, but 19% is not bad. And we ended at $7.2 billion. So we are still projecting towards the roadmap, just a little bit of a few months delay because of the crisis. And we're back in the regional growth path this year up until next year. So we will still be projecting to hit $12 billion by next year.
And a major part of that growth is the non-voice services?
Oh yes, Ron, it's good you mentioned that because we have largely been known as a destination for voice BPO.
That's right.
And which is why the rise of all these major call centers and back office for call centers in the early 2000s up until 2 years ago. And since then, we have seen a growing importance of the non-voice sector.
Right.
And we're talking the different knowledge fields of finance and accounting, design, creative outsourcing, legal, medical, healthcare, supply chain management. A lot of this is knowledge and technical areas that are important to a lot of these markets, except that they didn't find a lot of good markets before, but because we have been discovered largely because of our voice strength, we are being discovered now.
Gave us that exposure,
that exposure gave us this opportunity to venture into non-voice, and we have a lot of this talent available here.
Right. And we were talking about it, how it's not really something new, right? The non-voice services here in the Philippines.
Right.
But not a lot of people know that. But when people when you tell people that you're part of the industry, the BPO industry, immediately they'll picture you with a headset and that English accent, talking, or a different accent. But these non-voice services are growing rapidly. Is it catching up on the voice services? Not exactly.
Well, it's growing very fast. It's
Okay.
the fastest growing sector now. And
Mm-hmm.
just to be clear, the voice sector is still the largest sector
Right.
and will be for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good for us because, like I said, that's how we were known.
Right, right.
And now that many of these locators have discovered the Philippines as an offshoring destination, we're being discovered for a lot of these other areas.
Mm-hmm.
But it's growing at a very significant pace, more than 40% a year on the average, which is why we're doubling
Wow.
that sector every 2 or 3 years.
Mm.
And we see that we're extending the roadmap strategic plan now all the way to 2016. And we're seeing that there will be about close to 40% of the sector being engaged in the non-voice area, which today is only about 12%. So that's going to be a big stretch.
Again, the voice services area still gives us an advantage.
Oh, yes.
It's still an advantage
It's
to us.
still an advantage. To be clear, the English language proficiency is very important, even in non-voice, because there's a lot of interface requirement, whether internally or externally, with the clients.
Yes,
On what you're working on, whether it's a financial statement, an engineering design, an animation graphics, or legal research, or a scientific content development plan. It's all in the English language.
That's
It's
right,
the
that's
international basis language.
That's
And
right.
that's why that proficiency is still very important.
That's
You know,
right.
just want to make sure that's clear, which is why the intervention that we are hoping to happen in the education system and all the other institutions of learning are still going to be very important, even despite the growth of non-voice.
Okay, talking about growth of voice and non-voice calls, non-voice services. I go back to the industry again. I remember again when President Barack Obama made this. I think it was his inauguration speech or one of the speeches he made when he took the seat as President of the United States.
Yes.
There was a concern there when he said that there are going to be some penalties meted on companies who are going to pursue bringing business outside of the United States. Still, this is a concern, and this could be a major concern for us. What has happened, and do you consider this as a threat, and are you focusing on it, prioritizing?
Well, we believe it's understandable for many heads of governments, particularly in the developed markets like the U.S., to be concerned about jobs lost. And I think President Obama, even way back in his campaign, he was talking about, you know, creating jobs in the U.S. And of course, he was overly concerned about the offshoring trends because that's moving jobs overseas to India, Philippines, and all the other emerging markets. But you cannot really stop this flow because offshoring has been going on for ages. And especially during the financial crisis, where a lot of the companies are looking for ways to improve their costs in order to survive, they had to do some of that. And so the whole equation is not just about moving jobs in the first place. It's about improving their productivity. It's about giving to other destinations some jobs that otherwise could not have been done at the same optimal level in the U.S. or in Europe. And then so that their resources can focus on other more relevant things for their company that they can do internally. Overall, the company should end up in a more productive state. And therefore, that saves the company from any financial collapse. In a way, we're part of the solution here. We're not part of the problem. And therefore, you know, we have seen that many attempts in terms of a protectionist policy, whether it's by way of legislation or monetary policy, have not really progressed in the U.S., in Europe, or even in Australia. And that's because companies will decide what's best for them so that they can survive, so that they can protect their employees, keep the jobs there that are important to the company, and then improve by way of having a combination of offshore and outsourced jobs as well as internal jobs.
That's right. Okay, you have a powerful lineup of speakers for the summit. What other topics are they going to raise?
The good thing with the International Outsourcing Summit, which is on October 26, 27 at Sofitel, is that we are really hosting participants from over 15 countries. So the diversity of the discussions in the forum by way of the CEO panel, the chairman's panel, the academe panel, the industry vendors, as well as the consultants from all different verticals. I'm talking about marketing, finance, banking, retail, healthcare sectors.
Yeah, everybody's interested now.
The matrix, and that actually focuses not just on what's going on, what are the issues, as well as what are the trends, and how do we prepare for what's coming up in the next few years. And that forum is also very important for the Philippines because it highlights the importance of the Philippines as an important global participant in this industry. If we don't do things like this, you will not be seen as a primary destination. And for us to host this size of a conference, international conference, with such level of participants in terms of from CEOs down to operations people, actually signify how important the Philippines is really in the world stage. So we have, for example, the head of the European Outsourcing Association coming up to speak, global CEOs of Aegis and Infosys, and even local companies, industry vendors. Will be very, very important in having that diverse kind of dialogue across markets, across geographies, across different industries.
Right. For those people who want to participate in the summit, who can they contact? Where do they go?
Contact us in BPAP or our event partner, Team Asia. Our website is www.bpap.org or internationaloutsourcingsummit.org. So it's important that I think we can flash also the information on screen. It's at Sofitel on October 26-27. It's a very good event, including some exhibition booths. And the panel discussions, I assure you, will be very, very rich in terms of very relevant ideas for planning our growth moving forward. And even for the government sector, for the academe, even professionals from other industries who are interested at looking at what's going on in the offshoring industry, which is now really, we're creating about 100,000 jobs every year. We're an important contributor to the economy.
Of course.
There's a lot of interest in this whole sunshine industry that we call. It's a good chance to get updated. Really, what will be the impact of this to the other sectors of the economy? We're just seeing the early days of that.
Okay, Mr. Oscar Sanez, the president of the Business Processing Association of the Philippines. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this morning. Thank you.